their family and in their lives. So let me pray as we begin, and then you let us know what you want to do. Father, I thank you for the Hill family. I pray that this morning you would speak to our hearts, that we would understand what it is that you are saying to us. Guide us this morning. The testimony of your work and your will, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. I'll just wait there for you.
I've had trouble all week. I've been attacking myself. Will's been talking about how you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, there's the enemy. I've done that all week this week, and it has been really hell. I've never done that before, and I took it upon myself to say, I'm going to wake up every morning, look at myself in the mirror, and say, I'm taking you on. It's awesome. It's a really fun feeling when you take yourself on. First, I want to say I'm not more spiritual than anybody else. That's not why I'm up here. And my voice is going to let go. It's going to be awesome. But anyway, and it's funny, before I became a Christian, I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of things. I'm going to try to go really fast, and hopefully my voice will hold up. But anyway, I'm really nervous, really kind of weird too, because we all know each other. Why be nervous, right? We're all Christians. We've all had life. We've all had bumps in the road. We've all had scars. We learn from those things, and from those scars, we can teach other people. It's amazing the things that my wife and I and our family has gone through. But I want to say, before I was a Christian, I did not like Christians. Weird how many other people liked Christians before they were Christians. So, in saying that, sitting here today and standing here with everybody singing, and the songs are going, and I'm almost crying. And it's like, why did I not have that relationship with Jesus Christ before? I didn't come to know the Lord until I was 23. And I feel like I wasted so much time. And now I'm trying to catch up with that. And I almost feel bad because my heart says, yeah, but you hated Christians. And you wanted evil things for them. And I did. I hated Christians. So anyway, the Lord has done so much work in my life, and he's got so much more work to do. So I'm not standing here because I'm more better than anybody else. So yesterday morning, I'm driving in my car, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I hit the scan on my radio because, as I told Will this morning, I was in my prayer time. It was being interrupted. I'm like, what is going on? I can't even think straight. So I hit the scan on my radio because I don't want to hear any junk, and I let it just roll through. Lady Gaga was on, like, ah. Just kept rolling and rolling. Finally, it stops on a preacher, and big bellowing voice comes out. And I'm like, that's got to be Ken Graves. And so I listened to him, and what he had to say was really what I was going to talk about today, and it was no coincidence. I mean, we could talk about coincidences, people talk about them all the time. You flip a coin, you get tails, you flip a coin, you get tails again. That's a coincidence. All right, but what Ken had to say on the radio yesterday morning at 4 o'clock was no coincidence to what I'm going to talk about today. And what he said was, we have preconceived ideas about what God is and what he means to us. And he said that people will say, well, he's mean and he's cruel. And he said, that's just not right. That's not what God is. God is not mean. He's not cruel. And but we have that preconceived notion. So people look at my wife and I, and they say, "Oh, your daughter's got cancer, and you've had a son that died in '98, and your son has really bad speech because of these situations that you've got nothing to share." So you guys are like, "Wow, it's really amazing." Oh, wow, it's really not that amazing. We're just people dealing with a situation. Ross and Ashley had their son fall down the stairs. I just about freaked out. Yeah, my daughter's got cancer, but their kid fell down the stairs. I mean, they said they went lifeless. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember when Cher was that way. When she went lifeless for a while, it was terrible. But anyway, but we have these preconceived ideas, and a lot of people have preconceived ideas about Christians, that our life is so easy. If you're looking at your life as a Christian, you say, wow, my life is really easy, then the enemy's the other direction, okay? Because anybody play Call of Duty? I love Call of Duty. I have a game called Rage, and I learned something. If you're running and the enemy is not in front of you, you're going in the wrong direction. You gotta turn around. You gotta face the enemy. And this laughter thing is how my family gets through a lot of things that we get through as well. I want to point out that at the dinner table, you hear a lot of weird things from your kids. Okay? The dinner table is a great place to talk and go, what are you talking about? There's a lot of stuff going on. But our life is like a remodeling of a house. Okay, my wife and I just recently remodeled our house, And I say life is like remodeling a house because it doesn't remodel itself, right? You can't, it doesn't. You have to physically rip it apart, I like that part, and then you have to physically put it back up. My wife does that part. I can break stuff, no problem. Give me a hammer and a wall and it's broken. Don't ask me to fix anything, because I will get frustrated. I don't like to measure stuff. She's like, it's not balanced. And whatever, I'll just knock it down. So she does the building. I don't mind painting, but I will knock it down. If you need something knocked down, I'm your guy. If you need something fixed, call my wife. So anyway, so just don't, she's like more informed, and I just like to break stuff. But anyway, so the world fills us up with all this junk, and words I use a lot of like crap. I use crap a lot. The world is full of crap. I'm sorry, people don't like the word, but I use it a lot. I'm like, man, it's full of crap. And so I get really frustrated with stuff, but the world fills us up with all this junk that, we shouldn't be offensive. We need to be politically correct. And I'm sorry, my Lord was not politically correct, and he was offensive. And he stood up, he was a real man. And that's who I look at that and I'm like, man, I'm not doing enough. And people get really frustrated with me, but I don't really care. So anyway, all that stuff's pretty much a precursor to everything I'm going to talk about. Laughter was something I brought up at the dinner table. My son one day said, I can't wait till I turn 11. And we're like, why? He goes, because I'm going to have a brain surgery. He wants a brain surgery just like his sister had, because she was 11, boom, brain surgery. He thinks, I'm going to be a big boy, I need to have brain surgery. The other reason he said that was because Will will come and visit me. Mark it on your calendar. Because Will came down when she had her surgery a year ago. It's almost been a year. Like next month will be, yeah, exactly. So it's been a year. And Will came down, we weren't expecting anybody. We were sitting in the hospital room waiting. I get a phone call, hey, it's Will, I'm on my way down. I'm like, what? And he stayed at a hotel somewhere. So he's driving, it's snowing and icy all over the road, and this guy's crazy. So he shows up, and he is tired. And so we walked from the hospital down to the Mount Claw house, and he hung out with my son and I. My son had a blast hanging out with Will, showing him the room downstairs. Will passes out. My son goes, Dad, Will's sleeping. And so we get back to the hospital waiting for Sherry to recover. So we get back to the hospital room, we're in Sherry's room waiting for her to come back. The nurse leaves us, I'm going to get an IV because she hasn't eaten in like 12 hours or whatever it was. She's going to be really hungry, so we need to get an IV started. So she leaves, another nurse comes in, Sherry goes, I really want a pizza and some ice cream and some chips and a soda. And Will's over in the corner going, she's going to eat all this stuff? So they bring this whole tray full of food. I've never seen so much food on a hospital tray. And Will's sitting there going, and she just starts mowing this food down. The lady comes in with the IV stuff, and she goes, you're eating, never mind the IV. And then Will goes, I'm going to go now. It's Wednesday night, maybe I can make service. And so he leaves. But it was amazing, and these people are like, well, how do you make it through those situations? It's hard not to make it through a hard situation when your kid doesn't understand that she's going through a hard situation. Sherry does not complain about hardly anything, and so it makes it so much easier. It would be easier to say, man, my life really sucks, if she thought it sucked. But she doesn't. She doesn't even really talk about it. Maybe you can ask her about it. She'll say, yeah, I'm going to bring it to her. A kid, in fact, one day hit her in the head with something accidentally. It didn't even hurt her. I'm like, oh my gosh. She's like, listen, I've had brain surgery. This is no big deal. So I got to teach my daughter also how to be a little more tenderhearted towards people, because I do the same thing. I don't I'll say something, someone goes, really, your dog's got cancer? I'm like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you didn't know that. So, but anyway, one day at the dinner table, I told my whole family how much my boss was a loser, because she came in the room and said, yo, peeps, what's going on? And so I told my whole family that I told my boss that she was a loser. And I've known her for a long time, so it's all good. But my daughter contorted her face, and I said, what's wrong? She goes, why did your boss call you a marshmallow? I was like, it took me forever to go, marshmallow. What do you mean? She goes, peeps. They're marshmallows. I'm like, yes, you are correct. My daughter was in the hospital after her second surgery, and we had some people show up, and she had a bandage around her head, and Eddie, someone in our family who's gothic, I guess you would say, and he thinks it's all tough and whatnot, and he's sitting there, and Sherry's talking to him. She said, Eddie, it's a good thing I have this wrap around my head. And he goes, why? She goes, if I didn't, my brain would fall out. And he turned 8 shades of green. And I was like, so is it okay already? You know, so, but we get through everything we go through, we have to laugh at. This last surgery she had just before this last year, she said, literally, she said, well, I've been due for a haircut. Oh my God. Who thinks of these things, man? I mean, like, this stuff doesn't even go through my head. So now that we've laughed at each other and had a good time, I'm going to get into some more serious stuff because that's what we do. So my daughter does have a brain cancer, and it's a very rare brain cancer. It only happens to people, males, in the ages between 20 and 40. Okay, so she was 5 when she was diagnosed. So this is just unheard of. There was a boy that we learned through a page called Care Pages. I don't know if anyone's ever dealt with those kinds of things. And a man had a son who was 18 years old who also had the same brain cancer, and he did not make it. Sherry has already made it past the lifespan of this cancer. It's usually 3 years. She's 11. So, you know, statistics to me were meant to be broken. And my wife and I have lived by that because when we first got together, before we were married, we had a son. And they told us, statistics show you are not going to be together because of this child. It's going to totally break you apart. He died. They then said, no, see, now it's even worse. Now you're not even going to get married, and this is going to be the whole thing over. And my wife's dad actually looked at me and said, why are you still here? And I literally looked at him and said, because I love your daughter. That's what I said to him, and he didn't have anything else to say after that. But statistics show those kinds of things. And we got married August 1st, 98, which was the same year that our son died. And he died of SIDS, just so everybody knows, which means that doctors don't know why he died, which irritates us. And people say, isn't it harder to deal with Sherry's cancer? We say, no, because we know what it is. It's actually harder to deal with the fact that our son died on Valentine's Day in 98 because we don't know why. There is no answer for that. So that's very frustrating. But I got strength through that after becoming a Christian and reading about David and how much of a screw-up he was, and knowing that he's also a man after God's own heart, which I'm baffled by. But he had that son, and God told him that that son was going to die. And so when that child was sick and dying, David did nothing but fast and pray. Nothing. And when that baby finally died, he got up and literally dusted himself off and got something to eat, and everybody thought he was crazy. They said, your son just died. He goes, yup. And so I'll see him later. You know, and so I take great strength from that, knowing that someday I will see my son again. I have to have strength from that. I have to believe that. It's there. And so I wait for that day. It's going to be awesome. But so our daughter does have a brain cancer. It was the size of a plum when they took it out of her brain. If you take your hands and go like this, that's the size of your brain, okay? And I don't even know where I would put a plum inside my brain. So I don't know how you put that inside of a 5-year-old's brain. I don't know. So if you can figure that out for me, I will greatly take any kind of suggestions that you have. We had a Christian friend who asked us when we went through this surgery if it was the right thing to do. This person's totally against doctors doing anything. And I had to sit there and look at that person and say, my daughter is alive. You know, during the time that she was having her headaches, 3 days she was having headaches. She was not eating. She was not sleeping. She would fall asleep for 5 minutes and wake up and scream. 3 days. We got her up and took her to the hospital, and they said that she had a blood clot, and they looked at me and said she's been hit in the back of the head, and so it was automatically my fault because I'm the dad, which was pretty awesome. But when they flew her to Portland, that's when they noticed that she had a tumor, and again, the Christian friend just said, how did you know that this was the right decision? Because in my time of prayer, I totally understand where Jesus was coming from when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane and blood was coming out of his pores. I knew what that felt like. I didn't bleed, but I thought I was going to die at that moment because my daughter had that tube thing coming out of her head that was sucking the blood out of the clot. I couldn't handle that. I can handle blowing stuff up and breaking stuff, but my daughter any guy knows what I'm talking about. When your kid is, it's not right. So I would call myself a strong guy, but until my daughter gets surgery like that, it messes me up. But when I was praying, the doctor came up and knelt down right in front of me and said, I'm going to do what God gave me the ability to do, and I'm going to try to save your daughter's life. We later on asked him, we said, how much time did she have left? He said, she didn't even have a day. He said, literally, when she was falling asleep for those 5-minute spurts and then waking up and screaming, her body was trying to shut down. She was dying. I didn't know that, and that floored us. But he loves our daughter. His name is Dr. Wilson. Will got to meet him for a brief moment. Great guy. He wants to babysit my daughter and my son. So, and in fact, the nurses that work with Dr. Wilson said he doesn't say that about anybody. So I thought that was pretty cool. So, but he loves my daughter. So, my daughter has anaplastic oligodendroglioma. You can ask my wife how long it took me to say that. I went through periods of just calling it all kinds of weird stuff because I couldn't. It has another name too. I don't know what it is, and I don't care. I've got the anaplastic oligodendroglioma now. So, I'm going to give you some fun facts about this. Brain cancer, if you take a pie chart, everyone knows pie charts. Take a pie chart, 1% of all cancers is brain cancer. Okay? Got that so far, 1%? If you take that 1%, poof, make that into a pie chart, 1% of those are gliomas. Okay, so now we've got the glioma part of my daughter's cancer. So you blow that 1% up, and you got 1% are anaplastic. Okay, and we don't have a percentage for the pure anaplastic oligodendroglioma. Now add to the fact that she was 5 and she was diagnosed. The percentages aren't there. They aren't there. They don't have those for my daughter. So saying that is, you would think about these situations, and you go through these situations, and you just want to, you kind of want to cower and go, man, this really stinks. Day 2, after her second surgery, day 1, 2, because the first day she had this little wheelie cart made out of wood. It was like a bed, and you put a pillow on it, and she got carted around. She like cleaned for the day, you know. Day 2, the nurses come in, and bless their hearts, they were old ladies, and I don't mean to say that mean, but they weren't young. They weren't straight, you know. Anyway, I'm not trying to offend anybody. They came in and they were ready to unhook her bag to a wheelie bag thing. I don't know what those things are called. Hang them up and take her around. And she said, I'm walking. And I said, you can't walk. She said, I'm walking. So they, well, let's get you some of those socks with the little things. We'll hold your hand and we'll help you along. No sooner did they get that second sock on and turn, she leapt out of the bed and she was down the hall. And they're like, honey, we can't keep up with you. She was gone. And from that moment, it was literally that moment I was like, I can't even take any credit for anything. I am this big, and the Lord is so immensely huge that you could take my daughter, throw her out of a bed, and have her run down the hallway. Brain surgery. Anyway, I'm just saying. It messes with a lot of things. When they first brought her in the room after her first surgery, the second surgery, we were still down in the dungeon. And they said if she can't move, because when you do a surgery on the left side of your brain, your right does weird stuff, and it's vice versa, because your brain is backwards. So if she can't move her right side, don't worry about it. We'll do some physical therapy and get these things worked out. She immediately, as if she heard them say it, wiggled her toe and scratched her nose. And the doctor said, never mind. I'm not really worried about that. We'll check eyesight and all ears and all that stuff later, but motor skills are fine. My daughter's also growing up, and as a dad, I don't want to talk about those things, because I'm a dad and she's a girl. When it comes to the boy thing growing up with my son, I can handle that. But I don't want to, Amanda's like, I gotta go to the store and buy, whatever it is that you have to buy that has to deal with my daughter in any direction at all, I don't want to know. But so the doctor, of course, has to talk about these things like, well, if, because it was near the pituitary gland, if she doesn't do, I'm like, oh, he's going to say things that I don't want to hear. And he brought up those things, and I'm like, so, and then I come home, and I'm at work, and Amanda goes, just say no, your daughter's growing up. I'm like, yeah, I know that already. My friend, a girl across from me, goes, oh, she's, I'm like, oh, so we had to tell the doctor this last appointment, hey, by the way, my daughter's not a little girl anymore. He's like, hey, good. So the pituitary gland is also not screwed up.
I'm sure she was going to appreciate Casey sharing that.
It is something that you can get inside of a brain and take out a tumor that they say looks like scrambled eggs. It doesn't look like part of the brain. You can take that part out and the brain will not grow back. She'll have that hole in her head for the rest of her life. There's also some other weird things that happen when you start messing around with the brain. It could fill up with air, which will cause immense headaches, and they would have to drill and do other things to do that. But that didn't happen, so the air thing didn't happen. It could have filled up with water. And water in the brain, everybody knows water in the brain is bad. It could have filled up with blood, and if you fill it with blood, then if there was any pieces of tumor left, the tumor would continue to grow. Everybody probably knows you cut off a blood support source to a tumor, the tumor dies. It needs to have blood. That's the only way a tumor can grow, because it's like a leech. That didn't happen, and the doctor said, we don't even understand how this happened. Her brain filled up with spinal fluid. I said, is that bad? They said, no, spinal fluid doesn't do anything. It's not water, it's not blood, it's not air, and we don't even know how that happened. So if a doctor can't explain to me how spinal fluid got up inside of, I'm just saying, the world will mess your head up. But listen, I work at the Jackson Laboratory in Bar Harbor. It's like one of the most secular places you can work on the planet. I've been there for 8 years, and they're telling us we can't use words like kosher, okay? Because it's offensive to the Jews. And they can't explain how the mouse that we work on every single day of our stinking lives in that place, how that even fits on the evolutionary chart. And the deer that we almost run into every single morning, they don't know where that fits on the evolutionary chart, and they can't explain how spinal fluid ended up in my daughter's head, but yet they can tell us how everything else works. Give me a break, I'm just saying. Sorry, I went off on a little tangent. I'm coming back now. So, anyway, so, yeah. So, I just, there's a lot of things I just don't know. Our first son was born early, and he had bradycardia and apnea, which means he would forget to breathe. And our second son, Daniel, was born early. And so, automatic freak out time. When he got to 9 months old, it's one of those things where you just freak out. Like, okay, he didn't have any of those breathing problems. He was 6 pounds, 2 ounces when he was born early. If he was born on a regular time, I'd been like 8 to 10 pounds, so my wife would have killed me, I think. Because I remember when Sherry was born, I'm going to pick on my wife. I like picking on my wife. But she picks on me too. But anyway, I remember when our daughter was born, and I called work and said, my wife's going into labor, and I said, we're having a baby right now, and they said, well, you're obviously not coming to work. They said, what is it? I said, I don't know. She's in the process. I'm like, why are you talking on the phone if she's in the process of giving birth? I said, well, nothing's happening right now. But I remember at one point, Amanda looked at me, and she said, Casey, I said, what? She goes, I want to go home. I said, Amanda, you can't. The head's sticking out. She wanted me to sit down, and I was trying to be funny, and she didn't think that was funny. But anyway, dealing with this thing with Sherry, when she first got sick, we're in the hospital. Daniel is just a couple months old, and that's a pivotal time for parents to talk to their babies. You do the goo-goos and the gagas and who knows what else, mama, daddy, And he was hearing words like anaplastic oligodendroglioma, IV, fluid this, and blood something. And so I don't know if anybody knows Daniel well enough or not, but his speech really is cruddy. And he gets really, really mad if you don't, probably not if anybody else doesn't understand, but if I don't understand him, he gets really mad at me. We were at Walmart, and I realized that he does have some control. We were at Walmart, and he tried to tell me about something that he saw, and he was really excited about it. He saw a remote-controlled car, and he told me over and over again, Dad, it has a Froller. And I said, it's a filler? And he goes, no, And over and over, and I said, finally, you have to show me what that is. So he walks over and he goes, there it is. I'm like, controller. Right. Like, where's the TV roller? I don't know what you're talking about. One day he told me something, I don't remember what it was, and he was trying to tell me what something was, and I started to laugh because I didn't understand it, and then he started to laugh too because he was so frustrated and tears were coming out. I felt bad, but he laughed, and so, and my heart has crushed so many times that it feels impossible to me. When I was young, I'm not going to sit on this too long, but when I was young, abuse stuff, and you start pounding on rock, everybody understands that. And so you start piling on more rock, and then your parents get divorced, and you really start cramming rods inside that rock, because rods make it harder, and you put wood around it. You get a nice, sphere of wood and rock and rod. And so, and you hang on to that, and because I'm not going to get hurt now, right? Because the more you can pack on, the less hurt you can have. Brad Stein, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Brad Stein. He's a Christian comedian. He's very funny. We watched something called Run On. I wanted to watch it because I thought it would be funny. And then I realized it was testimonies. It was 3 guys doing their testimonies, and it broke my heart. And to hear Brad Stein say, you have to be careful how much rock and wall you're building around your heart, because if you don't let the hurt in, you don't let the love in either. So Christ had to come in and just start breaking that rock away. And that happened at Denny's, by the way. I got saved at Denny's when I was working there. My boss, helped me get saved. I had no idea what it meant to be a Christian. I just knew that one particular day I couldn't get any work done, and his friend told him, that guy's getting saved tonight. And he looked at him and went, yeah, right, sure he is. You talking about Casey? He's like, you don't understand that guy, do you? So, and I later went up to him and said, listen, what is this Christianity thing all about? And he told me, and my heart broke. And I remember I was like on a huge amount of fire, and I was probably very annoying to people, but I couldn't get rid of it. It just, but anyway, so my heart had to break, and I had to let love in. And I knew I had that love when I said, man, I want to hang out with Christians. And it wasn't just the fact, because before I was a Christian, I thought I had friends. I thought I liked everybody. And then I realized I only kind of liked everybody because I hated everybody. I didn't just hate Christians, I hated everybody. So I had, and then when my son died, holy cow. I mean, that just totally ruined any relationship I was going to have with God at that point, because I was so mad at God. I had this, and watching the guy that did the C.S. Lewis thing down there. And he said that C.S. Lewis's quote was that he was the biggest hypocrite because he didn't believe in God, but he was angry that God didn't exist. And when I heard that, I went, oh my gosh, wow, it just totally opened my eyes too. Because I was the exact same way. I was like, man, I am so ticked off at the world, and God doesn't exist, but I was angry that God didn't exist. But when I found out that God existed, and my heart broke and melted, literally it hurt. And then the love that I had for Christians, and the exceeding love that I have for those who are not saved. This morning, Amanda tells my son, about stuff, and about our friends, and he goes, I need to go to my room, and I need to pray for our friends. So I know that we're doing something right. I know this right stuff's being done here, because my son went to school, they asked him, they said, what makes you happy? In his speech class, he goes to see a speech therapist at Surrey School, and he said, Jesus makes me happy. And so I hear those things, and that's what the world needs to hear. We do Bible study at our kitchen table every day, and we just finished Matthew. And in Matthew 25:41, if you want to turn it, it'd be awesome. We all need this. And when we read this, we stopped right at this verse. And we said to our kids, do you understand this? And my daughter, without missing a beat, said, yeah, duh, because God wants everybody to be saved. And in paraphrase, I'm just going to paraphrase it, it says that hell is a place that was created for Satan and his angels, not for anybody else. Nobody else is meant to go there. I was going there. I know where I was going before I found Christ. I was going in that direction. This is less about what's going on with my daughter. This is less about what's going on with my son. This is less than what's going on in every single day life, a sore throat, headaches. It's less about what's going on with our children or what's happening at work. It's more about what are we doing? Are we taking on the enemy? Or are we sitting back going, well, that person's doing the wrong thing, but I don't want to offend anybody, so I'm going to stand on the backside and just kind of watch it happen. It's worse that you do nothing. The Bible tells us that too. You got to take great strength and say, that is the wrong thing to do. I tell my friends that all the time, and I'm pretty sure that they will tell you that I tell them that all the time. I do. I tell them all the time, I said, no, that's wrong. And they go, well, I'm going to do it anyway. I like it better when, like my mom, she rededicated her life after my daughter got sick. And I told Will, I said, if there was anything that my daughter's sickness was to do, if that was it, to get my mom back on the right track with Christ, awesome. There's nothing better than that. To have someone say, my mom called me, Casey, and it was first words out of her mouth. I just want to let you know I rededicated my life to Christ. I froze. And people said, well, how do you know it's true? I said, because she didn't swear. My mom doesn't say Jesus Christ without things coming after it, This doesn't happen. So now I'll talk to Mom on the phone and she'll accidentally swear, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'm like, Mom, I don't care. Whatever. It's a lot better than what she used to be. It's a long road, man. And but you got to take heart of those things. And so teaching moments happen all the time. My daughter and I were watching a Animal Planet show called Weird, True, and Freaky. And it is weird, true, and freaky. And there are things like 150 billion years ago. My daughter goes, really? I'm like, I'm so glad that she's getting the teachings that she needs here and at home. And my wife homeschools. We live on a single income, and the world tells us you can't live on a single income. You can't do it. You have to have both people working. Your kids need to be in public school. You can't homeschool your kids. And you honestly, if you have a one-income family, you can't even have a car, and you can't have a house. Just want to let everybody know we have a praise because Friday we're buying the house we're living in on a single income. Just saying. And so we're really excited. Everybody's like, yeah, but now it's going to be payments. I'm like, but it's a house. We've been living in this house for 9 years. It was supposed to be a temporary thing because me and his parents went through a divorce. So we went in to move in with her mom to help her out with bills. She said, this is just going to be temporary. 9 years. Now we're buying the house, so it's really it's quite interesting. My children love each other. They fight like cats and dogs. I remember one time Daniel sitting in the living room. We have a really big living room. And he had a DS in his hand. She said something, and he threw that DS. I don't know if anybody knows what DS is. A little handheld video game. Pulls it down. He threw it across the living room and hit her in the elbow with it. And my first thought was, wow, he's got a really good arm. My wife's looking at me going, no. Daniel, that was bad. Yes. He was behind our little rocking chair thing. It has a lever, and it falls off, and he took that lever off and cracked her upside the head with it. I mean, I heard it across the room. I'm like, oh my gosh, that had to hurt, Like, man, but he gets angry. He's got my temper, and I'm going to pay for everything I ever did wrong in my life because of this, and I pay dearly for it. My son's birthday got skipped by some family members of mine. They didn't even respond. Well, my brothers wanted to come, and they were excited. And there's some other people who they didn't even write back. And my daughter, I could see it as her heart hit so hard. And I'm like, oh, this isn't good. I realized how much she loved her brother. When he was born, she was holding him in the NICU in Bangor, and just holding him. And we say, well, you gotta let him go. We gotta put him back in the bed so we can go to bed ourselves. I'm never gonna let him go. I said, you have to put him back, put him in a little incubator thing and be okay. And I said, there's gonna be a day where you're gonna hate your brother. She goes, no, I will always love him. I wish I had that recorded. So they got in a fight one day, and I said, what's this? I wasn't going to love him. She goes, Dad, just because we fight doesn't mean I don't love him. You're an idiot. I was so cool before. I'm such an idiot now. I mean, my daughter, she's getting older. She's like, Dad, I'm almost a teenager. I'm like, I'm not even 12 yet. But she's like, I'm going to be a teenager soon. But yeah, so I'm becoming an idiot by her. Daniel still thinks I'm cool, and I'm cool with that. But yeah, so his birthday was skipped, and I could just see it, that she was pretty angry. And then her birthday got skipped by the same people, and she looked at me, and she said, I'm glad your dad and his wife didn't show up. Sorry. I said, why? She said, because they skipped his birthday. They don't deserve it. That killed me. I haven't told my dad that. He doesn't know it. Sorry. Told myself I wasn't going to cry. I did it anyway. But yeah, that broke my heart, and my dad does not realize what he's lost with that. They told her that they were going to call her when she went to the hospital a year ago, and it never did. And she said, I wasn't expecting them to. I don't know what her level of understanding of certain things are, but I do know this: my daughter knows that cancer can kill you. That kills me. That my daughter knows that cancer can kill her. A kid does not need to think about what can hurt them. I want my kids just to live life and have fun with it, and my daughter's more concerned about singing praises in the car when we're driving home to Portland. Because how do you get through these situations? We laugh, number one. Number two, it's hard to feel bad when we're driving down to Portland and we have a Christian radio station on and she's singing so loud that I can't understand the words. Sure, quiet down, I haven't heard this song before. She hears all the songs, she hears them all the time. All I hear is cry at work. So I get in the car, I don't know this song, she knows all the songs. She's singing so loud, I'm like, I want to wind the windows down, but it's cold outside. And I enjoy that. I really enjoy listening to her sing. And this morning we picked up our daughter from some friends who go to a different church. And they said, just want to let you know, she can sing. I said, I know. She sings louder than everybody in the family. She goes, she's singing louder than everybody in our car. And Daniel tries to sing with her, but he doesn't always know all the words. And even if he did know all the words, I don't think he could say them all. So, but he enjoys listening to his sister sing. But yeah, I honestly have no idea what to say. I was just going to let the Lord lead this thing, and just take comfort in knowing that men in the Bible were just like us. We're no different than men. We are all saints. Will says it week in and week out. Will also likes to quote people like The Who when they say, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. He also quoted last week. Tom Petty, thank you. I like the quote Rush. They say, if you choose not to decide, you've still made a choice. So profound. The choices we make every single day, whether it's a vote or to help someone out, if you see something that's good and you choose not to do that thing, watch out for that. Do the right things and tell people. My daughter is a huge evangelist. I can see it someday. She's going to say, Dad, I'm going off, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be like, okay. She wants to be a doctor. She watched her brother be born. She was there when he came out. and I thought it would gross her out, and I stay at my mom's head because I don't care what's going on down there. And things happen during the birthing process, other things come out. People know that, the placenta came out, and my daughter was like, "What is that?" Like it was a touchdown or something. Don't even look at that. She was like, "What is it?" And the daughter's like, "That's what the baby was in." She goes, "That is amazing!" And so the daughter has to turn it inside out, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" My daughter is so morbid. And, my son's morbid too. I learned that the last couple of days. We were watching, what did we watch? We watched some show. This guy got punched in the face, and he goes, "Is that guy dead?" "No, he just got knocked out." "Oh, so he's not dead?" "No." Then we watch another cartoon. A guy gets hit with something. He falls out. "Is that guy dead?" No. So laugh a little. Laugh a little, laugh a lot. We laugh so hard in my house that for 3 days I'll have a headache. I love that. I want to laugh like that. I want to live life like that, where it's not all light and fluffy all the time. But you gotta laugh. You gotta. If there's no laughter in your house, so have laughter in your house, and have love in your heart, and have love enough in your heart that you're reaching out to those who don't know what love is, because life is short. That's what it really comes down to. I don't care if you live for 100 years. Life is short. I don't even understand what eternity means. It makes no sense to me. And every day, on top of the looking in the mirror saying, "I'm taking you on," I'm also saying, "Why did you pick me?" I have no right to even be standing here and talking to you guys about what it means to live life and be a Christian, because that's the grace of God, man. All the songs that we sang this morning, every one of them broke my heart. Man, So you just gotta take it by the horns, grab a hold of it, live it up, live it for Christ, because He's coming. And if your friends aren't ready and you didn't tell your friends, that's your fault. Okay? You gotta tell them. You gotta tell your friends. You gotta tell your family members. I tell my family members all the time. I know they get annoyed with me, but I don't care. Because either they're going to learn about them or they're going to have that seed planted. Because that's my job. That's what we've been called to do. That's what we've all been called to do. Paul was a murderer before he became a Christian. He murdered Christians, whole families, and he called himself the owner of all sinners. And he counted himself that way. And if it wasn't for him and the work that all the other disciples and the work of Jesus and the work of even the people in the Old Testament, all the prophets passing out all those notes and just going on, we would not be here today. And because of that, that's why I'm here. And because of that, that's why my daughter's still upstairs hanging out with her friends. And, that's why we're hanging out with my son, and that's why they scream in the car when the radio comes on and they're singing, and that's why we're laughing. That's all I got. It's really, that's what I got. I just got me. I'm not special. And I got you guys. You guys got me. Deal with it. So, that's it. That's all I got.
Let the ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible told me so. Let the ones to him belong. They are weak, but shore. Yes, Jesus was in the Bible, so we walk with the